The day Gabriel regained his memory, he remembered the woman he had once loved deeply. Everyone thought that I, his wife who had been by his side through 3 years of recovery, would be left utterly devastated. He thought so, too. So at our third wedding anniversary dinner, he took his true love's hand, announced in front of everyone that he was ending our marriage, and told me with absolute certainty, "Tessa, you love me, so you'll understand, right?" I didn't cry, nor did I try to stop him. I simply took the divorce petition, which I'd signed long ago, out of my handbag and handed it to him. He didn't know that I'd been waiting for this day for 3 whole years, because the person I truly loved was never him. The night before our third wedding anniversary dinner, I stood outside the study at our lakeside estate on Lake Carleton and overheard my husband deciding to abandon me. "I'll make the announcement tomorrow night." Gabriel's voice came through the door, as calm as if he were confirming a foundation acquisition plan. I've remembered, Bianca. I don't want to continue a marriage built on amnesia and dependence. After a brief silence, Audrey asked, "Have you spoken to Tessa?" "Not yet. She's your wife, not an employee who needs to be the last to know. She'll understand." Gabriel sounded so certain that my hand, clutching the dinner program, paused for a moment. "Tessa wants me to recover more than anyone else. She's taken care of me for 3 years, been with me through rehab, and helped me relearn how to drive, work, and socialize. She loves me, which is why she puts my choices before her own feelings." Audrey didn't answer right away. Gabriel added, "She'll be sad, but she won't go too far away. Once things settle down, maybe we can go back to the way we were." I glanced down at the documents in my hands. The cover listed the dinner program, from the guest's arrival and the foundation's annual review to Gabriel's closing remarks, marking their wedding anniversary. There was no item labeled announcement of the end of the marriage. Clearly, he was planning a surprise for me. A soft clink of a cup returning to a tray came from the study. Audrey lowered her voice. "Does Bianca know what you're planning?" "She doesn't know the exact time." "Are you sure this isn't just an impulse now that your memory has returned?" "Dr. Mira completed the annual evaluation today. I understand the legal and practical consequences of this decision." I closed my eyes for a moment. That was the answer I really needed. There was no knock on the door, and no procedure sheet was slipped under the door. I turned and walked down the hallway back to the guest room on the 2nd floor. When we got married 3 years ago, Gabriel insisted that the master bedroom belonged to the 2 of us. 6 months ago, once his sleep had gradually stabilized, I moved into the adjoining room, telling everyone it was because of my irregular work schedule. In fact, it had been a long time since I'd slept in his bed. The computer screen was still lit. Theo had sent an email half an hour ago. "My portion of the joint divorce petition is ready. The property provisions follow the prenuptial agreement. We have no joint debts, no family shares to divide, and no spousal support claims." The email concluded with, "You can still change your mind. The anniversary review isn't a mandatory deadline, and the law never requires you to wait for him to make the first move." I sat at my desk and read through the document from beginning to end. I wrote my name in the signature line. Tessa Moore, no Carleton. I sent the document back to Theo, then opened the closet and packed the last few pieces of clothing I hadn't moved into my suitcase. For 3 years, I'd imagined this day countless times. I thought I'd feel relieved. But when I actually heard Gabriel say he was choosing Bianca, it still felt as if something heavy had pressed down on my chest. It wasn't heartbreak. It was more like finally taking a painting off the easel after spending 3 years restoring it myself. You know, it doesn't belong to you, yet you still remember how every crack once cut into your fingers. My phone flashed. It was a message from Gabriel. "Where are you? Mom said you were here a little while ago." I looked at the message and replied, "I'm already resting." He replied quickly, "Let's have breakfast together tomorrow morning. I need to talk to you." I typed, "Okay." Then I slipped my wedding ring off my finger and put it in the bedside drawer. A few seconds later, I put it back on. It wasn't time yet. The next morning, I was pouring coffee into a cup when Gabriel walked into the dining room. He hated the bitter taste but refused to admit he needed sugar. I put half a spoonful of honey at the bottom of his cup, just enough to mask the tartness without him noticing. It was a habit he'd developed during his first year of recovery. It was also the last time I'd ever prepare it for him. He pulled out his chair and let his gaze fall on his plate. Slightly crispy toast, a fried egg seasoned only with salt, and blueberries served on the side to keep their juice from staining the other food. "Did you go to the lakeside estate last night?" he asked. "To deliver the agenda. Why didn't you come in?" "You were talking with Audrey." His fingers paused slightly. "How much did you hear? That you plan to announce the end of your marriage at the dinner party." Gabriel looked up at me. Sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, leaving him with nowhere to hide the fleeting emotion he'd tried to conceal. "I was planning to tell you today. I can do it now." He didn't seem to expect me to be so calm. He paused for a few seconds before saying, "I remembered the day I got engaged to Bianca." "Which part?" "By the lake. She was wearing a white coat. The wind was strong, and the ring almost fell into the water." "Then what?" "Then I proposed to her, and she said yes." "What happened before that memory? And after?" Gabriel frowned. "Tessa, I'm not here for a therapy session. I'm sorry. I pushed the coffee toward him. He didn't touch it. Aren't you going to ask if I still love her? That's your business. I'm your husband. So you should figure out your own feelings first. His jaw tensed. The phone on the table lit up, and Bianca's name appeared on the screen. She sent a photo. The preview showed only a lake and two clasped hands. Gabriel instinctively turned the phone away. I pretended not to notice and got up to walk over to the coat rack. Today is your therapy session at the Landon Center. We're leaving at 9. 30. Doctor, Mira doesn't like it when people are late. He followed me over and took down a dark blue tie. For the past 3 years, before every formal event, he's let me choose for him. After the accident, there was a time when he couldn't bear to look at himself in the mirror, nor could he make sense of the clothes in his closet. Clothes that belonged to a stranger's life. Colors, occasions, public image. Every choice filled him with anxiety. So I started by laying out just 2 options each day. Later, it became 3, then 5, and eventually the entire closet. Today, he still hands me his ties. How about this one? You decide. Gabriel's hand froze midair. You used to help me. You don't need me anymore. Because of Bianca. Because the goal of rehab has always been to make you independent. He stared at me as if he were hearing the true meaning of those words for the first time. You're angry. No. Tessa, you can admit it. Admit what? You don't want to lose me. I looked at the 2 ties in his hand. One was dark blue, the other gray. 3 years ago, he would have stood in the walk-in closet for half an hour over a choice like this, only to finally ask me, his face pale, which one was more like the old Gabriel. Now he's capable of managing foundation projects, giving speeches in front of hundreds of guests, and even deciding to end his own marriage. I said, you can choose for yourself. He ended up picking the dark blue one. As he stepped out of the walk-in closet, he finished his coffee. He still hadn't noticed the honey at the bottom of the cup. 3 years ago, Gabriel proposed to me, also at the RAND Center. At that time, he had just passed his second independent capacity assessment. He was already able to understand contracts, manage his personal accounts, make medical decisions, and fully grasp what marriage entailed. He just still couldn't remember most of his life before the accident. He didn't trust the personal assistant Audrey had arranged for him, nor did he want to live forever in the family estate, surrounded by everyone's overprotective care. And I was the only person he didn't instinctively reject. Perhaps because during the first month after the accident, every time he woke up from the confusion, it was me he saw. That day, Gabriel sat in the garden at the Landon Center and handed me a marriage proposal. It wasn't a ring. It was a life plan drafted by his own lawyer. I need a home separate from my mother's, he said. I need a medical contact I can trust, and I need someone who will honestly remind me when I can't tell if I'm losing control. I didn't take the document. None of this requires marriage. I know. Then why? He looked at me, his gaze clear and determined. Because I want you to stay. At that time, Gabriel was still very thin, with a pale scar on his left temple from the accident. He didn't remember how to manage his own life, but he had already learned to hide his fear in the most dignified way possible. I asked, what if one day you regain your memory and discover that you love someone else? Then we can get a divorce. What if I'm never able to love you? He was silent for a moment. Is there someone you love? I'm waiting for someone. Will he come back? My fingers brushed against the keys in my coat pocket. The sharp edges of the metal, shaped like the North Star, dug into the palm of my hand. I don't know, Gabriel whispered. Then let's put that in the agreement. So we each hired a lawyer and signed a prenuptial agreement that included provisions for the separation of marital assets, an annual relationship review, and a right of withdrawal at any time. I would receive no shares in the Carlton family business, no inheritance rights, and no access to his premarital assets, and he would not interfere with my studio or personal accounts. Every year, before our wedding anniversary, we would reaffirm whether to continue the marriage. A full review would be required in the 3rd year. Before signing, Theo asked me, privately, are you sure you can continue to help him as a friend? Marriage isn't a tool for recovery. I know. Then why did you agree? I looked out the window at Gabriel, sitting on the bench. That accident robbed both men of their pasts. When one woke up, everyone was desperately trying to help him reclaim his identity. When the other woke up, he was burdened with the blame for causing the accident. I said, because there are some things that can only be answered if he remembers them. Theo stared at me for a long time. Tessa, you're under no obligation to spend your life waiting for an answer. It's not an obligation. That's how I answered at the time. But 3 years later, I could no longer tell whether it was a promise, guilt, or a form of self-punishment I refused to admit. Bianca returned to White Harbor for an art preview hosted by the foundation. She appeared as a co-curator, wearing a sharply tailored silver-gray long dress. She looked more mature than in old photos and knew exactly how to position herself in the light so that everyone's gaze would naturally fall on her. Audrey introduced her to me personally. Tessa, this is Bianca Shaw. We've met before. Bianca smiled. We were just all so busy back then. I had indeed seen her a few times before the accident. She and Gabriel were the undisputed power couple of White Harbor's social scene. They attended dinners, went on vacations, and planned their wedding together, just like the perfect high society couple everyone imagined. And at the time, Evan and I would often stand not far from them. The moment Gabriel walked into the gallery, Bianca was discussing a landscape painting, undergoing restoration with me. He saw her and suddenly stopped in his tracks. Bianca didn't approach him right away. She simply raised her hand to touch the back of her ear, and a faint scent wafted through the air. Gabriel's expression changed abruptly. "This scent, you gave it to me," she said softly. "On my 28th birthday." She took a photograph out of her handbag. In the photo, she and Gabriel were standing by the lake. He was bending down to put a necklace around her neck. The date in the lower right corner of the photo had been cropped out. "I don't know if you'd want to see this," Bianca said, her eyes glistening with just the right amount of restraint. "Audrey never let me bring these things near you before." Gabriel took the photo. His breathing quickened noticeably as his fingertips pressed against the edge of the photo. I stepped forward. Bianca looked at me, as if waiting for me to stop him. I simply asked, "Have these materials been submitted to Dr. Mira for her records?" Her smile faltered slightly. "They're just some personal photos. Gabriel is undergoing non-induced memory therapy. It involves photos, scents, and music from the past, and we need to record the sources and times of these stimuli. Do you think I'm hurting him? I think the therapy requires boundaries." Gabriel looked up. "Tessa, I'd like to see it." "Of course you can. Then why did you have her file it?" "Because memories can be reconstructed through suggestion. You need to know whether what you're recalling is the original fragment or a story the photo has filled in for you." Bianca said softly. "Has she always managed you like this?" Her tone was gentle, even tinged with sympathy. Gabriel held the photo and didn't answer. Audrey promptly instructed the staff to resume the preview. The crowd began to move again. But from that moment on, Gabriel's attention never returned to the exhibits. He remained by Bianca's side the entire time. She spoke of the hotels they'd stayed in, the drinks they'd shared, and the shows they'd seen together. Each story was complete and fluid, like a paved road waiting for him to walk back to the past. When the preview ended, Gabriel didn't leave with me. "Bianca has some more photos," he said. "I'd like to take another look." "Okay, you don't mind? Remember to give the materials to Dr. Mira." His gaze turned cold. "Is treatment all you care about?" I looked at him. "This is your chance to regain your memories. It might also restore my feelings for her." "I know." Gabriel said nothing more. He probably saw in my calm demeanor the hypocrisy of refusing to admit defeat. And what I saw was the gears finally beginning to turn. 2 days later, Dr. Mira called Gabriel and me into the conference room together. On the table lay the photos Bianca had submitted and a bottle of perfume. "I need to remind you once more," Mira said. "Memories aren't video recordings stored in the brain. They're influenced by emotions, descriptions, imagery, and retellings." Gabriel leaned back in his chair. "Do you think Bianca was manipulating me? I believe the material she provided is heavily focused on the sweetest period of our relationship, lacking a clear timeline and any information about the later stages of our relationship, because we were planning our wedding at the time. That's just a conclusion, not the complete memory you currently possess." Mira turned to me. "What did you bring?" I took a map of Lakeside Road and an old music player out of the document bag, the route taken on the day of the accident, and a song, Sours. The car system logs show it was playing 20 minutes before the accident. Gabriel stared at the music player. "Why not use modern equipment? The original sound quality might be part of the appeal." "What's the song title?" "North Shore Nocturne." "Are there lyrics?" "No." Mira checked the file and placed the player in the center of the desk. When the music began, Gabriel didn't react at first. It was a very gentle piano piece, with distant strings in the background, like the night slowly creeping up from the lake onto the shore. At 1 minute and 40 seconds into the track, he suddenly pressed his temples. "Stop it." Mira turned off the music. "What did you see?" Gabriel's eyes were closed, and cold sweat was beating on his temples. "A blue light." "What kind of light?" "I don't know. It was cold. Someone was arguing with me in the car." He opened his eyes and looked at me sharply. "You know who that person is?" I didn't answer. "Tessa, your memories need to form on their own. The music you brought, the route map you prepared. Of course, you know." Mira calmly interrupted him. "She's right, not to answer. Leading questions will undermine the credibility of subsequent memories." Gabriel, however, just stared at me. "What do you want me to remember?" "The facts." "About whom?" "About the accident." "That's not an answer. That's all I can tell you." That night, he had a nightmare. It was already 2:00 a.m. when I was startled awake by a knock on the door. Gabriel was standing outside my door, pale, his pajama back soaked with cold sweat. I dreamed of water. I let him in and turned on the bedside lamp. His hands were still shaking. The car sank. The safety light was blue. Someone was knocking on the glass. "Sit down first." I poured him some water and reminded him to look at 5 things in the room and then name 4 textures he could touch. This was the stabilization technique Mira had taught him. He barely managed the first 2 tasks, but his breathing remained rapid. I crouched in front of him and placed my hand on his knee. Look at me. Breathe in. Hold for 2 seconds. Then breathe out. He did, as I said. After a few rounds, his shoulders finally began to relax. There was a man in my dream, he said. My fingers tightened imperceptibly. He was calling out a name. What name? Gabriel looked at me. Tessa. The room fell silent. I could hear the lake lapping against the shore outside the window. You know him, Gabriel said. It's not surprising that there was someone you knew at the scene of the accident. Why did he call out to you? I don't know. This time, I wasn't lying. I didn't know why Evan was still calling out to me from that icy lake. Maybe he thought he was going to die. Maybe he just instinctively called out the name he knew best. Gabriel suddenly grabbed my wrist. Don't leave tonight. I'll be right next door. I don't want to be alone. I stayed with him until his breathing had completely steadied. I didn't notice right away when he moved closer. It wasn't until his hand touched my face and his lips were about to touch mine that I turned my head away. Gabriel froze. We're married. That doesn't mean you can kiss me now. You could before. Every time before. I agreed to it, too. He let go of my hand, his eyes brimming with hurt and anger. Is it because Bianca's back? No. You're punishing me. I'm setting boundaries. You won't even admit you're jealous. I stood up and placed the glass of water in his hand. You can sleep here tonight. I'll take the guest room. Tessa, you're safe now. As I walked toward the door, he asked from behind me, did you ever really accept this marriage? My hand rested on the doorknob. You've known for a long time that I can't promise love. That was 3 years ago. Yes, people change. Or maybe they don't. The next afternoon, Bianca asked me to meet her in the lounge at the Carlton Hotel in White Harbor. She chose a seat by the window, with a view of the lake and the cars coming and going from the hotel. I heard he wasn't doing too well last night, she said. I didn't ask her how she knew. Gabriel had already started opening up to her about his life. Doctor, Mira will take care of it. You always leave everything up to the protocol. At least the protocol won't omit the unfavorable parts just because it hopes for a certain outcome. Bianca picked up her coffee and smiled. What do you think I'm leaving out? You said Audrey prevented you from getting close to him. That's true. After the accident, she refused to let me into the intensive care unit and wouldn't allow anyone from the Carlton family to tell me how he was doing. For the first few months, Gabriel wasn't able to express his wishes clearly. Audrey had the right to restrict visitation, so I had no choice but to leave. After Gabriel passed his capacity assessment, he was able to decide for himself who to contact. Bianca's smile faded slightly. I continued. Why didn't you contact him for the 2 years after that? I needed time. Of course. Tessa, not everyone is like you, able to put their own life on hold to care for someone who doesn't remember you at all. The sharpness in her tone finally came through. I have no obligation to sacrifice myself. You certainly don't. She didn't seem to expect me to agree. I said, you can leave, and you can come back, but don't frame your choices as something others have taken away from you. Bianca's fingers tightened around the cup's handle. Do you think you're more noble than me? I didn't say that. You married a man with amnesia, knowing full well that he used to love me. Yet, you took his wife's place. Now you're using the rules of therapy to limit his contact with his past. Are you really saving him? Or are you just making sure he can only depend on you? He had his own lawyer when we got married, and he passed a capacity assessment. I made it clear to him before we got married that I was waiting for someone else. Bianca's expression froze for a moment. Someone else? That's irrelevant to this conversation. She quickly resumed her smile. Whoever it was, he clearly didn't come back. I looked out the window and didn't respond. She leaned in closer and lowered her voice. Gabriel remembers me. Aren't you afraid? Afraid of what? Losing your husband. If he chose to leave of his own free will, that's his right. Can you really be this calm? Bianca, did you come back to confirm whether he still loves you? Or to confirm that you can still beat another woman? The smile vanished completely from her face. I stood up and picked up my coat. Besides, in the first year after the accident, he could only remember 3 or 4 new things each day. In the second year, he gave his first public speech on his own. In the third year, he resumed his managerial duties. What you missed wasn't the few months Audrey wouldn't let you in. It was the 2 years after he was able to reach out to you on his own. Dinners at the Carlton house were always quiet. The silverware made little clinking sound. The timing of each course was meticulously calculated, and even the sequence in which the lights outside the window came on seemed like part of the family's order. Audrey sat at the head of the long table. Bianca sat to her right as a representative of the foundation's partner organization. Gabriel and I sat on the left. The media list for the anniversary dinner has been finalized. Audrey said, Tessa, you'll make your entrance with Gabriel as planned. Okay. Bianca is in charge of the new exhibition's launch and will be attending as well. Okay. Audrey glanced at me. I expect everyone to conduct themselves with dignity. Me too. Gabriel set down his knife and fork. You have no other objections. What do you expect me to object to? This isn't a work meeting, but we're talking entirely about work arrangements. Bianca looked down at her drink, a faint smile flitting across her lips. Audrey changed the subject. Tessa, you previously asked to review the family activity archives for the year of the accident. I can grant you access to some of them. I want the complete vehicle maintenance records and copies of the original onboard data. Those materials have already been handed over to the accident review board. The family still retains backups. Audrey narrowed her eyes slightly. Is access to these records your condition for attending the anniversary dinner? I was going to attend anyway, but if you need me to continue fulfilling my duties as the Foundation's public face, I need to obtain the materials that Gabriel has already authorized in writing. Why are you so fixated on that accident? Bianca asked. I didn't look at her. There are discrepancies in the old reports, Gabriel said coldly. Or is it because you still can't accept that Evan might have caused the accident? The restaurant fell silent for a moment. Audrey looked at him. Did you remember Evan? A fragment. He was arguing with me in the car. My heart gave a heavy thud. What did he say? It's very vague. Gabriel watched my reaction. You seem to care a lot. He was the other person involved in the accident. Is that all? I looked up at him. For now, we just need to discuss the materials. His expression turned cold. Audrey finally agreed to provide me with the files once her lawyer confirmed the scope of authorization. When dinner ended, Gabriel didn't leave with me. As I was putting on my coat in the foyer, I heard Bianca ask him if he wanted to take a walk by the lake. He agreed. Before opening the door, I glanced back. They stood beneath the chandelier, like an old photograph that had been put back in its rightful place. That night, Gabriel recalled the moment he proposed to Bianca. When I got home, he was waiting for me on the balcony. Autumn had already arrived in White Harbor, and the wind off the lake was cold. Yet, he was wearing only a shirt, holding that photo with the date cut out. I remembered. He said, "What part?" I was kneeling by the lake. The ring almost fell out. She laughed and called me a klutz. Then, agreed to marry me. His voice was very soft, as if speaking any louder would shatter that memory once again. I loved her. I know. It wasn't the photo that told me. I remember how I felt at the time. That's good. He turned away. Good? It's progress in my recovery. Tessa, I just told my wife that I remembered loving another woman. What do you want me to say? At least ask me what my options are now. Have you already made a choice? He fell silent. I walked over to him and closed the balcony door a little. Keep looking for what happened before and after this memory. The engagement isn't the end of time. Do you want me to remember that we broke up later? I want you to remember the complete past. Because you're sure the complete past will make me give her up. No. Then why? I looked at the lights on the distant lakeshore. Because fragments can make people mistakenly believe they've already got all the answers. He stared at me, disappointment gradually rising in his eyes. Sometimes I really don't know if you just don't care, or if you're just too good at pretending. The next day, I went to North Star House. It was a 2-hour drive north of White Harbor, far from the family hotel, the Art Foundation, and all my familiar social circles. Visits require an appointment in advance. Upon arrival, I showed my ID at the front desk, signed a confidentiality agreement for visitors, and waited for the rehabilitation coordinator to confirm that the resident was still willing to see me. He's in good spirits today, the coordinator said, but he might get tired after his independent mobility training. It's up to him to decide when to meet. I understand. I waited at the garden entrance for 10 minutes. A man walked slowly toward me from the other end of the path. He was wearing a dark gray coat, and there was still a slight hesitation when he put his left foot down. As he rounded the corner, he instinctively scanned the exit and the people around him first, making sure there were no obstacles before continuing forward. This was a professional habit Evan had developed before his accident. It was also one of the few things he hadn't forgotten. He walked up to me. Tessa, I've heard him call me in this polite, distant tone many times before. I still can't get used to it. How was training today? I went to the bookstore in town by myself. Did you get lost? Twice. Did you find your way back in the end? Yeah. He glanced at the paper bag in my hand. What did you bring? Apple pie. The coordinator checked the ingredients. Did I used to like it? You ate 2 slices last time. Evan took the paper bag. Then I like it now. We took a walk in the garden. He didn't like it when I walked on his left side because it blocked his view of the path. During my first visit, out of old habit, I linked my arm through his left, and he stopped immediately, asking why I thought I could touch him. Since then, I've asked every time before getting close. As we passed a slope, his pace slowed. I said, "Do you need a hand?" No. He walked the rest of the way on his own, a thin sheen of sweat already on his forehead. Next to the bench lay a sketchbook provided by the rehabilitation center. After Evan sat down, he picked up a pencil and unconsciously drew a few crisscrossing lines in the corner of the paper. They eventually formed a somewhat irregular Polaris. I stared at the drawing. He noticed that again. What? I've been drawing this a lot lately. Maybe I just like this shape. You adjust your cuffs when you're lying. My hands stopped moving. He looked at me. Have we known each other for a long time? A long time. Were we close? Yes. Close enough that you come here on the same day every month? This day is more convenient. Today is the 17th. I didn't say anything. The 17th was originally our wedding date. After the accident, the date was canceled, the wedding dress was returned, and the venue contract was terminated. But on the 17th of every month, I still drive to North Star House. At first, Evan refused to see me. Later, he allowed me to leave things there. Later still, he was willing to listen to me read the restoration records from the studio through the glass of the consultation room. It wasn't until half a year ago that he agreed to take a walk with me for the first time. "You're married," he said. "Yes, to another accident victim." "Yes. Does your husband know you come here?" "He knows I leave White Harbor regularly, but he doesn't know about your medical records. Because I didn't give you permission." "Right." Evan set down his pencil. "Why are you respecting my privacy, but refusing to tell me why you're here?" "Because past relationships shouldn't be a source of stress for you." "Then don't look at me like that." My throat tightened. "What kind of look?" "Like I've come back from far away, but walked through the wrong door." I lowered my head. He was silent for a moment, then pushed the paper bag containing the apple pie across the table toward us. "You can come again next month." I looked up. This was the first time he'd ever offered to let me visit again on his own initiative. "Okay." Just before I left, he suddenly asked, "Tessa, did I ever make you wait a long time before?" I clenched the keys in my pocket. "Yes, I'm sorry. That's not something you need to apologize for right now." He looked at me and said slowly, "But hearing that answer now makes me feel uncomfortable." 2. Back at the Rand Center, new fragments of Gabriel's memory surfaced. He saw Evan sitting in the car. He heard two people arguing heatedly. He told me to pull over, Gabriel said, and then grabbed the steering wheel. Mira wrote a line on her notepad. "Where were you sitting at the time?" "In the passenger seat." "Are you sure?" Gabriel frowned. "I saw his hands on the steering wheel." "That doesn't prove which seat you were in." "Was the car his?" "The car belongs to the Carlton family," I said. He shot me a sharp look. "Why are you defending him?" "I'm correcting the inference. The old report concluded that Evan lost control of the car. Now I remember him grabbing the steering wheel." 2. You only remember one action. "Isn't that enough?" Mira put down her pen. "It's not enough. Fragments of memory can provide a direction for review, but they cannot directly constitute a conclusion about the accident." Gabriel's breathing grew heavier. "You all think I'm misremembering. I think you haven't recalled the whole story yet," I said, "because the complete picture would have to match the answer you want. I've already requested access to the seat sensors, seatbelt records, and steering wheel safety data. You started investigating a long time ago. There were doubts about the old report from the very beginning. Why? Because neither of the parties involved could provide a statement, and the determination of the driver's seat was based primarily on the scene's layout and speculation." He stared at me and suddenly said, "The man in your dream is Evan." I didn't deny it. "What exactly is your relationship with him?" "That's not the focus of today's session. Tessa, you have no right to demand that I disclose another patient's medical confidentiality. I'm not asking for medical information, but the answer would reveal his identity and current situation." Gabriel stood up and paced the room for a few steps. When he was anxious, he always needed to keep moving. I remember something he said to me in the car. I looked up. "What?" He said, "You've already ruined her wedding once." It felt as if the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. "What does that mean?" he asked. I looked at Mira. She calmly reminded me, "Don't fill in the blanks with guesswork right now." But Gabriel refused to sit down. "Whose wedding did he ruin? Why did he mention you?" I forced myself to unclench my fingers. "Wait until you remember." "There you go again." "Because I can't create memories for you." "Or is it because the truth will prove you had another motive for marrying me?" "Gabriel, stop." Mira's voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough. "That's all for today's session." As we left the center, Gabriel refused to ride in the same car as me. He had the driver take him to Bianca's apartment. I returned to the studio alone. That evening, Nora called me to say that Evan was willing to look through a box of old belongings from before the accident. "Are you sure?" I asked. "He offered it himself, but you can't interpret every single thing as proof of love." "I won't." "Tessa." Nora was silent for a moment. "You shouldn't treat him like an old painting waiting for you to restore it, either." I stood in the dimly lit archive room and didn't answer. "He isn't your lost fiancé," she said. "At least, not only that." The second time I went to North Star House, Nora was already waiting in the garden. She didn't look much like Evan, but they both had the same direct way of looking at people. An old wooden box sat on the long table. Inside were a watch, a work ID, a few travel photos with no people in them, and a key engraved with the North Star. Evan picked up the key. "You have one, too." I took mine out of my pocket. The two keys lay on the table, their teeth perfectly identical. "What door does it open?" he asked. "A cabin by the lake." "Whose?" "We bought it together. We each own half." "Why?" "We plan to fix it up and live there." Evan looked at me. "We?" "Yes. Do friends buy houses together?" I didn't answer right away. Nora crossed her arms. "Tell him the facts, but don't decide for him how he should feel." I said, "We were a couple back then." Evan's finger pressed against the edge of the key. How close? Close enough to make plans for the future together. Why didn't you make that clearer? Because you're under no obligation to carry that past relationship forward. But you come here every month. I want to make sure you're okay. Just to make sure? I looked at his face, familiar yet unfamiliar. I also want to know if, one day, you'll be willing to get to know me again. Evan looked down at the keys. What about your husband? Our marriage has an exit clause. That's not an answer. He knows I'm waiting for someone, but he doesn't know it's me. You hadn't given me permission to reveal that yet. He suddenly put the keys back in the box. Tessa, I don't want to be the answer you've been waiting 3 years for. I didn't ask you to. You didn't say it out loud. He looked up, his gaze so clear, it was almost cruel. But every time you look at me, you're waiting for that person from the past to emerge from me. Nora didn't stop him. I couldn't argue either. Evan stood up. That's enough for today. He took a few steps, then stopped. I'll keep the key. Okay, it's not because I remember. I know. He didn't look back. It's because I want to know what's behind that door. Photos of Bianca and Gabriel meeting in private soon appeared in White Harbor culture media. The photos were taken outside the lakeside restaurant. Gabriel draped his coat over her shoulders, and her hand rested on his chest. The two were standing very close together, and the composition looked like a carefully staged rekindling of an old romance. The report didn't directly accuse anyone. It simply used an ambiguous headline. Memories regained. Can they bring back a love regained? At 9:00 a.m., the studio received its first client inquiry. At 10:00 a.m., the foundation suspended a restoration project. At 11:00 a.m., Gabriel walked into my office. Why not let the PR team handle this? I was cleaning old varnish off a 19th century oil painting. That's a photo of you and Bianca. The media has dragged you into this, so I've already issued a statement. He pulled out his phone and read aloud the text I posted. Moore Conservation Studio is an independent professional organization. All projects are carried out in accordance with contracts and conservation standards. Tessa Moore's private marital status does not affect our obligations to existing clients. He put his phone down. Why didn't you clarify that the photo was just a meeting between friends? Because I wasn't there, and I don't know the facts. You could have asked me. How did you want me to write it? At least indicate that we're still married. Legally, that's true. I don't need to prove it. His expression darkened. You've stopped using the surname Carlton at events, and you've handed all joint interviews over to the family team. You're cutting ties early. My studio has always been under the Moore name. You didn't mind that for the past 3 years. For the past 3 years, I've taken on many public responsibilities that aren't part of a restorer's job. So now you're unwilling to protect me anymore. I set down my tools and took off my gloves. Gabriel, it was your team that invited the media. It was you who chose to meet Bianca in a public place. You should deal with the consequences. A foundation project has already been put on hold. I know. Don't you care about the loss? I do, but I won't trade it back for a false marriage declaration. He stared at me. What exactly are you trying to force me to do? No one is forcing you. You've distanced yourself from me, rejected me, and deliberately acted as if you don't care. You want me to give up Bianca out of guilt. That's your assumption. Then, why aren't you jealous? I fell silent. That question seemed to enrage him even more than the photo itself. Tessa, did you ever love me at all? The low hum of the restoration equipment drifted in from the studio. I looked at the man who had shared my life for 3 years. I remembered the first time he rode the elevator alone. His palms were sweaty with nervousness. I remember how, after he regained the ability to sign his name, he wrote it dozens of times on a piece of paper. I remember how, before a public speech, he hid in the restroom and asked me, what if everyone in the audience realizes I'm not the real Gabriel? I did care about him, even on some late nights. I'd thought to myself, if Evan never remembers me, if Gabriel always needs me, maybe this life could go on. But that wasn't love, at least not the kind of love he wanted. I said, I cared for you. I protected you. And I never deceived you, neither in our agreement nor in my feelings. I'm asking if you love me. I can't give you the answer you want to hear. The last glimmer of hope in Gabriel's eyes slowly faded. So for the past 3 years, I've just been your assignment. No, you took care of me because of the accident. You married me so you could wait for me to regain my memory. I told you before we got married that I was waiting for someone else, but you didn't tell me who it was, because that wasn't just my business. He gave a laugh, but there was no joy in his voice. At least Bianca remembers loving me. Yes, and you won't even pretend. I won't soothe you with love. He turned and walked toward the door. I'll be moving into the guest room tonight. I didn't remind him that we'd already been sleeping in separate rooms. After the door closed, I put my gloves back on. But when the tweezers touched the edge of the canvas, I realized my hands had been trembling the whole time. Theo was there when Audrey asked to meet with me. A settlement proposal lay on the desk in the study at the Lakeside Estate in Carlton. It included a downtown apartment, 3 years living expenses, referrals from the foundation's long-term clients, and a confidentiality clause stipulating that neither party would publicly discuss the details of their marriage. Audrey pushed the document toward me. "This isn't a buyout for your silence." Theo turned to the first page. Clause 3 of the document is about silence. Audrey ignored him and just looked at me. "I know you're not short on places to stay, but a divorce would affect the studio. These clients can help you make a smooth transition. What's the price? Don't speak publicly about Bianca. Don't question Gabriel's mental capacity at the time of the marriage. And don't link the accident review to the marriage. I've never questioned his mental capacity. Others will question it. That's the public opinion you'll have to deal with." Audrey shifted the pen on the desk slightly. It was a habit of hers when she was nervous. "You've done a lot for him over the past 3 years. The Carlton family won't pretend not to notice, so we're supposed to put a price on them." Her hand paused. I pushed the documents back across the desk. "I don't want the apartment. I don't want living expenses. And I don't want client referrals. Tessa, I only want the accident files within the scope Gabriel has already authorized, including the original vehicle maintenance records, seat sensor, data, and steering wheel safety system logs." Audrey looked at me for a long time. "You really didn't enter this marriage for him. I made that very clear before we got married, but I thought time would change you. You and he both thought that." For the first time, she didn't immediately argue back. A moment later, she opened the safe under her desk and took out a sealed manila envelope. "These are copies. The family's legal team advised keeping them because there were a few data points in the original report that weren't fully explained." Theo took the envelope. Audrey asked, "What if the results prove that Evan did cause the accident?" My throat tightened. "Then we'll accept the results." "Can you do that? Facts aren't meant to comfort me." She lowered her eyes. "Before Gabriel got married, I asked you the same question. You said you couldn't promise to love him. I thought that as long as you stayed long enough, he'd eventually become your choice. That was your hope, not my promise." "I understand." She spoke very softly. "It's just that I understood too late. The file analysis lasted 3 days. It was raining outside when Nora arrived at the studio." Theo projected the seat pressure curve onto the wall. "The original report assumed Evan was in the driver's seat the entire time, based on where emergency responders found him and the fact that his work phone was connected to the vehicle before the accident." Nora said coldly, "Just because his work phone was connected to the car doesn't mean he was driving." "Right. More importantly, 7 minutes before the accident, the pressure data from both the driver's and passenger's seats dropped out simultaneously for 41 seconds. They stopped the car and switched seats." I said, "Possibly." Theo nodded. "After that, the driver's seatbelt was refastened, and the recorded weight range was closer to Gabriel's." Nora stared at the screen. "Then why didn't the original investigation find that?" "It did, but at the time it was explained away as a faulty sensor, since neither person could provide a statement, and there was no other evidence to prove they'd switched seats." I flipped to the steering wheel log. 3 seconds before the accident, the safety system recorded 2 abnormal pulls in opposite directions. Someone unknown was fighting over the steering wheel. I said, "The data only supports that possibility. It doesn't indicate who acted first, nor does it prove who was driving." Theo reminded me, "To formally overturn the liability conclusion, we'll need new testimony or a technical explanation." Nora looked at me. "Submit a request for review right now. It's not enough. At least it'll let the public know there are problems with the old report. Going public will only cast doubt on whether Gabriel's recovered memories were influenced by public opinion." "Are you still waiting for him?" "I'm not waiting for him to give me the answers I want. I'm protecting the credibility of the evidence." Nora was silent for a long time. Evan had already been preparing to leave his job at the Carleton household before the accident. "I know. He kept stepping in to handle crises for Gabriel, missing house viewings and wedding rehearsals with you. And, in the end, even going to pick him up on the night of the accident." "I know. You had a fight with him then." I looked out the window at the rain. That morning, Evan had promised to accompany me to finalize the wedding venue. But Gabriel had locked himself in his hotel suite after Bianca suddenly called off the engagement. Evan got a call and had to leave at the last minute. Yet again, I asked him if every important moment in our future would always have to take a backseat to Gabriel. He said that would be the last time. He didn't come back that night. The last thing I said to him, I began in a low voice, was, "If you go again, don't come to the wedding." Nora's eyes reddened slightly. "So you think the accident was your fault? If I hadn't forced him to choose between his duty and me." "Stop." Her voice was cold. "You expected your fiancé to show up on time for his own wedding, not to cause an accident." I didn't say anything. Nora walked over to me. "Did you marry Gabriel because you felt you'd pushed Evan down that path?" "That wasn't the only reason, but it was part of it. I couldn't deny it." She stared at me, then finally placed a cabin renovation plan on the table. "Evan had already signed his resignation papers before the accident. He chose you. It's just that the paperwork wasn't submitted in time. When Bianca pulled out that photo, Gabriel was in a private lounge at the Carlton Hotel in White Harbor. The photo was taken 6 weeks before the accident. I was standing next to Evan, wearing a different engagement ring. Gabriel held a glass of wine, a best man's pin pinned to his suit lapel, smiling without a care in the world. Bianca stood on the other side. I didn't want to show you this, she said, but you have the right to know what your marriage is built on. Gabriel's finger paused on me in the photo. Is Evan her fiancé? Yes. Why didn't anyone ever tell me? Maybe Tessa thought it would be easier if you didn't know. As I walked into the living room, Gabriel slammed the photo down on the table. Explain. Bianca was sitting nearby, showing no intention of leaving. This was a party after Evan and I got engaged. I said, you were going to get married? Yes. And after the accident, the wedding was called off. Because he died? I looked at him. He's not dead. Gabriel's expression changed instantly. Bianca also looked up abruptly. Where is he? Gabriel asked. I can't tell you. You married me, yet you've been visiting him all along. His medical condition and whereabouts are protected by medical privacy laws. You knew all along that he was alive. Yes. You used my recovery to search for memories of the accident, access, family records, and file for a review, all to clear his name. The old report might have been incorrect. Answer me. I want the responsibility to be assigned correctly. So you married me just to wait until I remembered something that could prove his innocence? I steadied my breathing. I told you before we got married that I was waiting for someone. You didn't tell me it was Evan. Back then, he refused to let anyone disclose his condition, publicly. I had no right to decide for him. But did you have the right to use me as a tool? No, I didn't. You took care of me for 3 years, trained me to be independent, accompanied me to therapy, and made me trust you. Now you're telling me you did all this for the man who might have caused the accident. I never said he was innocent. I'm only asking for the evidence to be re-examined. Gabriel stood up. Do you love him? Bianca looked at me, too. This time, I didn't look away. Yes, after that single word fell, the room grew eerily quiet. Gabriel's gaze seemed to shatter as if struck by something. You love him, yet you married me. You knew there was someone in my heart when you proposed. I thought that person was gone. I never said that. So it was just a misunderstanding on my part. Yes, he smiled. All right. That smile was filled with coldness. You didn't lie. You just happened to leave the most important parts unsaid. Those parts don't belong to me alone. Is that still true? Don't I even have the right to know where that man is? No. His eyes turned red. Tessa, I'm your husband. That doesn't give you the right to invade Evan's privacy. Evan. He repeated the name. For the past 3 years, every time you came with me to therapy, were you thinking about him? Not every time. So I'm supposed to be grateful that you even noticed me once in a while. He picked up the photo and pointed to himself in it, smiling and raising a glass. I knew you two back then. Yes. Did I even wish you both well? Yes. Then why don't I remember any of it? Because of the accident, and because everyone chose not to tell me, to avoid triggering your memory. Or was it to keep me as a blank slate, a patient who's easy to manipulate? I looked at him. You can end the marriage. His hand dropped. It seemed that only at that moment did he truly realize I had never intended to keep him through marriage. That evening, he returned to the residence and stood in the walk-in closet, which was already half empty. You've been packing for a long time. Yes. Did you know I would file for divorce? I knew it was a possible outcome. You were even looking forward to it. I didn't answer. Speak. He lowered his voice. Have you been waiting for me to recover, so I'd let you go? I've been waiting for you to have full capacity to make decisions. I passed my annual evaluation a year ago, but you've always said you couldn't decide about marriage because you didn't know who you loved before the accident. So you're waiting for Bianca to come back. I'm waiting for you to make your own decision. He took a step closer. What if I choose you? I looked at him. You won't. What gives you the right to answer for me? Because what you're asking about right now isn't love. It's that you can't accept that I don't love you. His expression turned completely cold. Tomorrow night, I'll end this marriage in front of everyone. Fine. I'll choose Bianca. Fine. You think I wouldn't dare? I believe you will. His breathing quickened. Tessa, don't you have a heart at all? Before we make the announcement, we need to complete one final competency check. Do you really need a doctor's note to prove I'm not being manipulated by Bianca? I need to confirm that this is your conscious, voluntary decision. And then I'll accept it. He stared at me for a long time. All right. Before turning away, he said coldly, you'll regret this. I didn't tell him that my divorce papers were already signed. On the afternoon of the anniversary dinner, I went to the studio. Theo went over the application documents and moving out arrangements one last time. Tonight's announcement won't end the marriage immediately, he said. Gabriel still needs to sign his part. After that, the lawyer will file the joint petition and wait for the legal process to be completed. I know. He might also change his mind after the public announcement. So I'll double-check. Dr. Mira then sent the results of the capacity assessment. Gabriel understands the legal consequences of divorce and is able to distinguish between memories, emotions, and realistic choices. There is currently no evidence that he is under duress or has lost his capacity for independent judgment. Among the dinner band set list was Nocturne on the North Shore. This was a therapeutic cue that Gabriel himself had agreed to use. I was just about to leave when the phone rang. It was Evan. I saw the report, he said. What report? What might happen tonight? The media in White Harbor is always quick to pick up on things. Are you going? Yes. Why? Because I promised to attend, and because I want to hear his decision with my own ears. Evan was silent for a moment. Will you come find me afterward? My hand tightened around the phone. If you want to see me, will you bring the ring, the photo, and that key? No. Will you tell me how much we used to love each other? No. Will you ask me to renew our engagement? No. I could hear his breathing through the receiver. Then you can come see me as I am now. The anniversary gala was held on the top floor of the Carlton Hotel in White Harbor. The lights reflecting off the lake spread out beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, and guests in formal attire mingled among the foundation's donor lists and art displays. I entered the ballroom on Gabriel's arm. He wore a dark tuxedo, and the tie was his own choice. The photographer asked us to move a little closer. His hand rested on my lower back, but he didn't actually touch me. Bianca stood not far away. She was wearing the white that Gabriel had loved most before the accident, with the necklace from that photo pinned to her chest. Audrey glanced at me. You still don't have to go on stage. I'll see tonight's program through to the end. Tessa, I don't know what to say. Then you don't have to say anything. As the dinner drew to a close, Gabriel walked onto the stage. The band stopped playing, and all the lights fell on him. He began by reviewing the foundation's annual projects, thanking its partners, and mentioning his recovery over the past 3 years. Then, his gaze swept past the guests and settled on me. Over the past 3 years, Tessa has given me a life of stability, respect, and security. The room fell silent. Our marriage began during the most chaotic period of my life. She helped me rediscover the world, and she helped me rediscover myself. Someone turned to look at me. I stood below the stage, still holding the untouched glass of wine. But as my memories returned, I realized that gratitude and dependence cannot replace a person's true choice. Gabriel paused. I cannot stay in an incomplete marriage forever just because I'm afraid of losing stability. Bianca's eyes lit up. So tonight, I've decided to end my marriage to Tessa. There was no commotion around me, only the faint sound of people drawing in their breath, and countless gazes suddenly fixed on me. Those gazes held surprise, sympathy, and a cool calculation of the story's news value. Gabriel continued, I want to reclaim the life I had before the accident, and I want to face the person I once truly loved again. After he finished speaking, he walked down the steps. Under everyone's gaze, he stopped in front of Bianca, with tears in her eyes. She took his hand. The sound of camera shutters filled the air. I set down my glass and walked onto the stage. Gabriel clearly hadn't expected me to approach. Bianca's hand was still resting on his arm. I looked at him. I just want to confirm 3 things. He furrowed his brow slightly. What? Is this your own decision? Yes. Do you understand that a public announcement cannot replace legal proceedings? And do you understand all the consequences of divorce? I do. Is this a final decision, made with a clear mind, of your own free will, and one that won't change based on my reaction? He stared at me, as if trying to find signs of breakdown, pleading, or a last-ditch attempt to hold on in my face. He found nothing. His voice grew solemn. Yes, all right. I slipped off my wedding ring. The room was so quiet I could hear the soft clink of metal falling into the palm of my hand. I accept. Gabriel's expression froze. I continued. My portion of the joint divorce petition has been signed. Your lawyer will receive the documents after dinner. Assets will be divided according to the prenuptial agreement. I will not claim any Carlton family assets, nor will I make any additional requests regarding the foundation's projects. The look of triumph on Bianca's face slowly turned to bewilderment. I looked out at the audience. Moore Restoration Studio will still honor the professional contracts that have already been signed. As for my personal marriage, after tonight, the Carlton family will no longer speak on my behalf. With that, I placed the ring in Gabriel's hand. His fingers instinctively tightened around it. When did you sign it? Last night. You knew all along? I overheard your conversation with Audrey. His expression changed. So you've been putting on an act all along. I just went through with the dinner as planned. Tessa, you've already made your choice. I glanced at Bianca standing beside him. I won't take part in a contest where 2 women fight over 1 man. There was no applause from the audience, nor did anyone speak up to humiliate me, but that silence proclaimed more clearly than any commotion that something had come to an end. As I walked off the stage, Theo was waiting for me at the exit. Audrey stood a short distance away, looking as if she wanted to follow me, but ultimately didn't move. I heard Gabriel's voice behind me. Tessa, wait a minute. I didn't turn around. After leaving the hotel, I drove straight to North Star House. It was nearly midnight by the time I arrived. A staff member led me into the meeting room. Evan was sitting by the window, a half-finished cup of tea on the table. He had already seen the video from the dinner. The whole of White Harbor had seen it. You look more exhausted than you did in the news reports, he said. How did I look in the reports? Like you already knew the answer. I did know. Are you free now? The legal proceedings will still take some time, but the relationship is over. He looked at my hand. Where's the ring? I gave it back to him. Evan was silent for a moment. Did you come to see me because he didn't want you anymore? No, because you finally fulfilled your obligations. Partly, and now you're planning to take your ex-fiancé back. No. His gaze settled on my face. Tessa, you're very good at saying no. I don't know how to answer that. Then answer what you do know. I sat across from him. I know I loved the you before the accident. And now? I don't know. He nodded slightly. That answer seemed to reassure him more than any heartfelt assurance could. I don't know how I feel about you either, he said. I check the weather before you come every time, guessing if there'll be traffic on the way. I remember you don't drink coffee, that's too sweet. And I know you keep checking the time when you're nervous. My eyes stung a little. But that doesn't mean I'm going to renew our old engagement, he continued. Nor does it mean I'm the one who made you wait 3 years. I understand. Do you really understand? I looked down at my empty ring finger. Maybe I'm just starting to understand. We were supposed to look at old photos tomorrow. I'll cancel it. Where's the key? You can keep it, or you can give it back to me. I need a little time. Okay. There's no time for answers from the past. Okay. He looked at me for a long time. Don't drive back to White Harbor tonight. North Star House doesn't allow overnight guests. There are hotels in town. Are you worried about me? Maybe. He spoke very slowly. Or maybe it's just me right now. I don't want you to drive while tired. When I left North Star House, I had 17 missed calls on my phone. 12 were from Gabriel. 3 were from Audrey. 2 were from an unknown media outlet. I silenced them all and spent the night at a hotel in town. The next morning, Theo told me that Gabriel hadn't signed the divorce papers yet. He said he needs to see you first. All legal matters go through you. He also said he had a new memory flash last night. I was silent for a few seconds. Where? Your studio. Gabriel was already waiting at the studio door. He looked like he hadn't slept all night. His tie was gone, and his suit jacket was badly wrinkled. I opened the door. 10 minutes. Tessa, I remember. He followed me into the restoration room, his gaze settling on the old record player by the wall. After you left last night, the band played Nocturne on the North Shore again. Bianca asked if I was feeling unwell, and I saw her necklace, and then I saw the best man's pin in the photo, his hand pressed against the edge of the table. I remember that she'd already given the ring back to me the day before that photo was taken. I stopped in my tracks. Go on. She said she didn't want to marry someone who always needed someone else to clean up after him. She didn't leave because her mother stopped her. She called off the engagement herself. What else? Gabriel closed his eyes. The night of the accident, I'd been drinking. Evan came to pick me up. His voice began to tremble. He was driving at first. Then, I made him pull over, saying I didn't need anyone to look after me. I snatched the keys, and we switched seats. Driver's seat pressure log. A 41-second data gap. My fingers were getting colder by the second. I was driving really fast, he said. Evan told me to slow down. I told him he was leaving White Harbor too, that he and you had bought a house, and that he'd quit his job after the wedding. Everyone was abandoning me. Then what? He said he wasn't obligated to clean up after me time and time again. He said I'd already ruined your wedding once because of Bianca, and I couldn't keep making you wait. Gabriel opened his eyes, bloodshot and red. There was a car ahead. I didn't swerve in time. Evan reached over from the passenger seat and grabbed the steering wheel, trying to pull the car back into the lane. I thought he was trying to control me, so I yanked the wheel back. 2 sudden, opposing jerks. The car crashed through the guardrail. All that remained in the recovery room was the sound of his breathing. After we hit the water, Evan unbuckled my seatbelt first. He pushed me toward the shattered window. I heard him shouting your name the whole time. My vision blurred for a moment. Didn't he make it out? He did, but he was struck by the car's body. When the rescue workers found him, he was near the driver's side, so everyone assumed he was the driver. Gabriel's voice cracked. It was me. I caused the accident. I steadied myself against the workbench to keep from losing my balance. For 3 years, I'd imagined countless versions of the truth, but when I actually heard it, I didn't feel the relief I'd expected. Only anger and grief, long overdue, slowly welled up from the deepest part of my body. Gabriel stepped closer. Tessa, I'm sorry. I raised my hand to stop him. Contact Theo first. I'll sign the divorce papers. It's not a divorce. I looked at him. Contact your lawyer, Dr. Mira, and the White Harbor Traffic Safety Review Office. Submit a complete written statement explaining the memory triggering process. Give them the vehicle data as well. I've already told you the truth. A verbal confession won't absolve Evan of responsibility for the accident. I'll do it. Today. Okay. He stood there, not moving. Is there anything else? It wasn't until after you left last night that I realized you really wouldn't be coming back. You made your choice publicly. I didn't know the whole truth back then. You knew you'd chosen Bianca, Because I thought she represented who I was before the accident. And now you realize that's not the case. Now I know that the person I used to be lost her long ago. He looked at me, a belated sense of despair flickering in his eyes. And now I love you. I didn't say anything. It's not dependence. He continued urgently. After you left, what I remembered wasn't how you took care of me, but how you always let me make my own choices. The tie, the job, the therapy, and the divorce. You never controlled me. Gabriel, I can start over. The divorce papers haven't been filed yet. Let's go correct. The accident report first. He froze. Is that your answer? It's the most important thing you need to do right now. What if I do it? Responsibility isn't something you trade for love. His face grew paler by the second. I looked at him, my voice calm. You can take responsibility for Evan. You can apologize to me for the public humiliation. And you can admit that you've misunderstood the past 3 years. But none of that will bring us back together as husband and wife. Why? Because I don't love you. He closed his eyes. After a long while, he whispered, I understand. This time, he truly understood. Gabriel signed the divorce papers that same day. He then submitted a supplemental statement to the White Harbor Traffic Safety Review Office, accompanied by his lawyer and Dr. Mira. The vehicle data was reanalyzed. The pressure readings from the driver's seatbelt records, the time it took to park and maneuver, and the abnormal force on the steering wheel formed a chain of evidence that corroborated his fragmented memories. Evan authorized North Star Home to provide information on the locations of his post-accident injuries and necessary medical records, but refused to disclose further details about his recovery. 6 weeks later, the review office officially revoked the original report's designation of Evan as the primarily at-fault driver. The new conclusion confirmed that Gabriel was the actual driver at the time of the accident, and that the struggle for control of the steering wheel resulted from Evan's attempt to avoid a hazard. Gabriel issued a brief statement. He acknowledged that he had previously accepted erroneous conclusions due to memory loss, and admitted that the public manner in which he ended his marriage had harmed innocent people. The statement made no mention of my personal relationship with Evan. This was the boundary I had set. It was also the first time he stopped trying to enter my life through public statements. Bianca left Gabriel's residence the day after the truth about her memories came to light. She came to the studio to see me once. Did you know we'd broken up all along? She asked. I only knew that the timeline you provided was incomplete. So you've been watching my performances. I have no interest in that. She looked upset. You win. I've never competed with you. Gabriel loves you now. That's none of my business either. Bianca stared at me, as if she couldn't understand how a woman could have absolutely no interest in being chosen. Before leaving, she said, I did leave him, but I have no obligation to care for a critically ill patient. You didn't. Then why do you look down on me? I don't look down on the fact that you left. I said, it was after you came back that you rewrote your departure as someone else depriving you of your love. She didn't say anything else. Shortly afterward, she withdrew from the White Harbor Partnership Program. There was no public disgrace, nor did she face any retaliation. She simply lost the narrative that served her best. When I brought the formal review notice to North Star House, Evan was undergoing an independent living assessment. He was already able to take public transportation into town on his own, manage his medications, and had begun considering moving out of the long-term rehabilitation unit. Nora was waiting for me outside the conference room. Does he know the results? His lawyer informed him, but he said he wanted you to tell him yourself. I pushed open the door and walked in. Evan was sitting at the table, holding his North Star key. The review is complete. I placed the documents in front of him. The original liability determination has been revoked. He didn't open them right away. Did Gabriel admit it? Yes. The vehicle data also supports his statement, so I wasn't the one who caused the accident. No. His fingers slowly released the key. For 3 years, everyone had told him that he might have ruined 2 people's lives because of reckless driving. Even though he didn't remember it, that sense of responsibility still clung to him like an inescapable identity, existing even before he did. Now, finally, someone had lifted it from him. Evan lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. I didn't get close to him, nor did I tell him that. Before the accident, he had saved Gabriel and once called out my name in the icy lake water. Those facts belonged to him, but they shouldn't become a reason to demand his love at this moment. He looked up. You didn't bring any photos? No. Or the engagement papers? No. What about the title deeds for the keys? Theo will handle it according to your wishes. You can keep half the title, or you can sell it. Did you come just to deliver this notice? There's one more thing. His gaze narrowed slightly. I walked over and sat down in the chair across from him. Over the past few months, I've believed that as long as the truth about the accident was restored, as long as your responsibility was rectified, and as long as Gabriel could make his own independent choices, I would have done everything I was supposed to do. And then I realized I'd been treating happiness as a reward for fulfilling my duty. Evan listened, quietly. I thought that only by fixing everything the accident had destroyed would I be worthy of living again. I also thought that once you regained your memory, we could go back to the way things were. Don't you think that anymore? Now I know that no one can ever go back to the way things were. I looked at him. I'm not here to take my fiancé back. His finger paused on the edge of the key. Then what are you here for? To ask the Evan Cole of today out on a date. He didn't say anything. I continued, not to renew our engagement, not to go back to the cabin, and not to prove that the past hasn't disappeared. Just a first date. You can say no. The lake breeze blew in through the half-open window, lifting a corner of the document. Evan looked down at the review notice. I don't remember ever loving you. I know. And I'm not sure if I ever will. I know. Sometimes when I look at you, I feel like you're someone else. I'll change. You shouldn't have to become a complete stranger, just for me. Then I'll learn to ask you first. He finally smiled. It was faint, but it was the first time I'd seen him smile like that since the accident. I kept a record of every time you visited, he said. What kind of record? The first time, you brought apple pie that was too sweet. The second time, you didn't touch me. The third time, you stood outside the door for 40 minutes in the rain because I changed my mind at the last minute and didn't want to see you. My eyes began to well up. After that, I started looking forward to the 17th of every month, not because I remembered anything. It's because I want to see you. He slipped the North Star key into his jacket pocket. A first date? Sure. I asked with a smile. When? Today. Where? The bookstore in town. The one where you got lost twice last time. That's why I need a companion this time. We walked along the lakeside path toward the station. As we passed a slope, I instinctively slowed my pace, but didn't reach out my hand. Evan had walked halfway up when he suddenly stopped. Tessa, what's wrong? He held out his hand to me. It's okay this time. I took his hand. It was just as warm as I remembered, but the palm had new calluses from after the accident. I didn't try to find the past in it. I just held on to the present. 4 months later, Gabriel and I were officially divorced. The joint petition was handled according to our prenuptial agreement. There were no disputes over property, and no one had a last-minute change of heart. As our final meeting with our lawyers came to an end, Gabriel called me over in the hallway. He seemed much calmer than he had been a few months earlier. Doctor, Mira said I still need to learn to distinguish between the love in my memories and the needs in reality. She's right. I'll keep going to therapy. Okay. He glanced at my left hand. Are you with Evan now? We're dating. You didn't renew your engagement. No. Gabriel chuckled softly. That's just like you. What do you mean? Everyone thought you waited 3 years just to get your old life back, including me. But in the end, you didn't even want your old life back. It's not that I don't want it, I said. It's that I won't force anyone to be who they used to be. He was silent for a moment. I'm sorry, Tessa. I accept your apology, but I won't forgive you enough to start over. No, I know. He nodded. He didn't ask if we could be friends, nor did he ask to stay in touch. As he reached the elevator, he stopped. Evan doesn't need to forgive me. Right. Neither do you. Right. The elevator doors opened. Gabriel stepped inside, casting one last glance at me. Goodbye, Tessa. Goodbye. That was the last time we met, in private. 6 months later, Evan left North Star House. He didn't move into my apartment, nor did he move directly into the lakeside cottage. We had the building's structure reevaluated and converted the first floor into his independent living space. While the second floor remained my restoration workshop, each of us had our own bedroom, desk, and storage cabinet. The shared spaces consisted only of the kitchen, the living room, and the old terrace overlooking the lake. Nora came to visit once, and, standing at the doorway, remarked, "This is much more sensible than what you two had planned before the accident." Evan asked, "What were the original plans? You wanted to knock down all the walls." That sounds really unsafe. Tessa said the same thing back then. I was fixing the window frame and looked up when I heard that. You called it an open concept layout. Evan glanced at the load-bearing wall. My judgment wasn't great back then. Nora laughed out loud. That evening, after she left, Evan and I installed the last piece of the house sign together. It didn't say the Moore and Cole house. It was engraved with just a tiny North Star. Evan took his keys out of his pocket. I took out mine, too. The 2 keys were still exactly the same. He stepped up to the porch first and inserted his key into the lock. After the door opened, he didn't go in right away. Instead, he turned to look at me. Tessa, I still can't remember what we used to plan here. That's okay, but I know the kitchen window should be bigger, because when you work late, you forget to eat, and I need to be able to see the lights still on from the living room. That sounds like surveillance. Risk management. You're not a risk consultant anymore. Old habits die hard. I laughed. He laughed, too. The lake reflected the setting sun, and the old house still smelled of wood and fresh paint. Many parts weren't fixed yet. The stairs creaked, and the patio railing still needed replacing. It didn't feel like a home regained. It felt more like a house we'd just begun to make our own. Evan reached out his hand to me, not to take me back to the past, but to invite me into his future. I placed my hand in his. He clasped it tightly and led me across the threshold. This time, neither of us needed to regain all our memories first. Nor did either of us need to fulfill every obligation to deserve happiness. The door closed slowly behind us. 2 keys remained, one in each of our hands.